Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside a very special guest today. We got former Green Bay Packers running back, Mr. Darrell Thompson. Darrell, how you doing this morning, pal?
I'm doing well. I'm up. I'm rolling. I got the coffee. I got everything rolling. So everything is good.
You know, when I pitched the idea of an 8 a.m. kickoff here for the show, I'm thinking he's not going to bite on that. But here you are. So you must be a morning person too. I know you got the grandbaby there with you guys and ready to
I
roll.
am. Our daughter is a little bit sick, so we got the granddaughter today. She's got pink eye, so we're we're on kind of full alert here. But she's doing good, and I am a little bit of a morning person. I think that as you get a little bit older, you realize that mornings are probably the best time to get things done, and in the afternoons you can do whatever you want or need to do. So yeah, I've become a morning person as I've gotten a little bit older.
Definitely, I'm definitely sharper in the morning. You're probably going, if this is as sharp as it gets, I'd hate to see you in the evening. But I'm telling you, as the day goes on, I'm so like, by the time 9 o'clock hits in the evening, I'm such a boomer myself now, man. I'm wore out. But obviously, let's get to the important stuff. President and CEO of Boulder Options, right? You guys are mentoring youth, been doing it for some time now in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and Rochester. Why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about that, man? Because I could tell it's something just reading your website earlier this morning and digging into it. It's definitely something to be proud of there.
I'm more than proud of it. It's really, to be honest with you, Clayton, it becomes my life's work. When I was playing football, it was interesting. I got drafted. I was blessed to be picked in the first round. And then probably, the second year I was playing, one of my dear friends and mentors, Michael Haddix, got cut from the team. And that was just like a gut blow. He had done everything, taught me all these things about coverage and the fronts and the defenses, and they cut him. And I was like, man, this is just not fair, but I always knew that, I had to do something when football got done. So you realizing that football wasn't going to last really long time, a long time in the NFL is, 8 to 10 years. Right. And I just spent time with youth in the off season. So during that time, it just evolved. And I spent time with kids here in Minneapolis and St. Paul and Rochester and this program, Boulder Options. I was a volunteer there in the early years. And then as I got done with football, I started working there part-time. It grew to a full-time position. We're able to, establish an office, our 501c3 status. And then we were a pilot program then, and I got named executive director back in the late 90s. And I've been president now for almost, 7 or 8 years. And we're serving kids here all over the state of Minnesota for, 30 years. 30 years the organization's been in existence. I've been with the organization for 28 of those 30 years. So it is an honor and a blessing to be able to serve and to be part of the community here in Minnesota.
It's absolutely awesome. It just shows how college football in general, it can be so impactful. Because if I understood correctly, you were born in St. Louis, right? Am I thinking right?
Yep, I was born in St. Louis, Missouri.
So obviously you got several D1 offers. I think Nebraska was one, Wisconsin was one, and then you decide on the University of Minnesota, and now you're still up there doing, found your life's work in that area. It's so cool, man, to see how sports can kind of take you to a certain aspect of your life, right? And kind of find your life's work. It's just phenomenal. Now you had was it your great aunt that was an Olympic gold medalist? Am I thinking right?
Yeah. It was my dad's, my great aunt, and Alice Coachman, actually the first African-American to win a gold medal, period, in the United States. So it was, and I never met her. My dad stayed with her, and both of my parents were college athletes as well. So my mom played, basketball at historically black college, Alcorn, and my dad played at 2 different colleges. Actually, he played at Mary Holmes, and he also played at Clark College. So, but my parents met down south, and my dad stayed with Alice a few times in the summertime, and wondered why people were coming to the door to get autographs. And she just kind of casually mentioned, "Oh, I won this gold medal, back in 1942 or something like that." And he's like, "Oh, and then typical college kid, he's like, "Oh, that's kind of neat, just." Thanks for, can you scramble me some eggs, type of deal. Like, it's kind of moving on,
Yeah. and along the way tearing down racial barriers. That's just absolutely awesome. Now
Yeah.
you also had a brother and sister who played collegiate volleyball, right? If I understand correctly. Obviously you chose Minnesota. You've got 2 daughters and a son. Am I thinking right that all played collegiate sports as well? Is that
2
right?
daughters and 2 sons. So my brother and sister played volleyball in college, and both of our daughters played volleyball in college, one at Wisconsin, one at San Diego State and VCU, and then we have 2 boys. One played at here University of Minnesota and finished at Mankato State, and then our youngest son is a basketball player, and he played at the University of Indiana.
What's in the water at the Thompson house? I need to know. I mean,
Well,
it goes all the way back to your great aunt.
I married right. That's the key. I told my kids, I said, they don't, you don't have, if you have a good horse, you don't just marry any, you said you got to marry an athlete. So I married right. I married, Miss Basketball from the state of Iowa, and
Wow.
we were blessed enough to have some very, very athletic kids. And so, yeah, that was probably the key, I think, is to marry right. That'd be the key.
There you go. That's a tip.
I married up.
Got to put it on the ticker. Put it on the
Yeah.
ticker. Marry up.
Yeah.
There you go. And obviously, you're still doing radio broadcasts there with Minnesota Golden Gophers. You've been doing that since '98. Is that right? Because listen, I'm not trying to blow smoke here, but you look like you're max 35 years old. I'm just being honest. But
well, I sleep in coconut butter every night. That's all. That's it. Coconut butter, and I just pour coffee over the top of that. That's what I sleep in every night. So that keeps the skin smooth.
Nice. There you go. All right. Put that on the ticker too.
All right.
Let's see. So let's kind of jump ahead to Green Bay, if that's all right with you. Obviously drafted in the first round there in 1990. I got a quick clip for you. Let's go back and relive that first touchdown run. You want to, Daryl? Here we go.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Green Bay with a 2nd down and 1 on the 12. And there's a beautiful run by the rookie Thompson, changing directions for a touchdown for Green Bay. Yard run for Darrell Thompson. That is his first NFL touchdown.
Packers getting excellent blocking up front from Euchre in particular.
At that cutback.
And Weinberg over on that side.
Oh yeah, those were the days.
Thompson able to spot an opening to the outside and quick enough to change his direction. He's got great pick-a-hole eyes, and he found it to take advantage of it.
Chris Jackie, who has missed 1 conversion this year.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And, I was born in 82, Daryl, so that's the type of football I grew up with right there. Those old broadcasts and obviously you watch a game from that era, a large majority of the game, they don't even show the score. You're going, I don't even know what the score is. It's like they didn't keep it up at all. The nostalgia is just amazing to me. I love that era. Obviously, you go to Green Bay. What's the first thing that comes to mind when I say what was it like to play football in Green Bay? And maybe specifically your rookie year. What stood out to you when you were drafted by the Packers there in the first round?
It's interesting. It was the rich history of Green Bay Packer football that I didn't really get until I got there. So you get there and they're like, well, and this is whatever, 1990. So we didn't have the phones. We didn't have all this stuff. It's like, hey, you know what? We're standing around waiting for you to do this press conference. Why don't you just walk around the Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame? So I go in the Green Bay Packer Hall of Fame. At that point was across the street. So like we'll spend time, and I go down there and I see like Bart Starr and Nitschke and James Lofton and like these photos and this, this room. I'm like, man, there's some serious history. The Super Bowls, the Ice Bowls, all that stuff. So I started to kind of soak it in. And then I was raised in Minnesota, being a Minnesota kid, the Vikings had lost in the Super Bowl. So there's still like this, and it's still here. There's still like a pain. There's still a frustration. We've never won the Super Bowl. And the Packers have won multiple Super Bowls, before I got there, and able to win multiple Super Bowls after I left the Green Bay Packers. So that to me was the most impressive part. And then the fan base, like to this day, you would think, I was like a regular Packer. I wasn't like, some superstar, Brett Favre, Reggie White, Aaron Rodgers. I'm a regular Packer. And the fan base, you would think when I go back and do like golf terms, you would think I scored the winning touchdown in like 4 Super Bowls in a way. No, not quite to that level, but I mean, they're nice, they're appreciative, and that's how we got connected. My friends were saying, "Hey, man, there's a clip of you, man." So I like it, and then we get connected, So there's the fan base for the Green Bay Packers. I don't know other fan base. I think there's some other really strong ones. I think the Steelers are strong, and I think there's some other fan bases. The Raiders is another strong one, but I don't think there's quite a fan base that's similar to the Green Bay Packers, and the fact that one of my kind of funny broadcast partners I met around here in the Twin Cities says, almost everywhere you go, you will see someone and you'll see that G. It'll be on a car. It'll be on a sweatshirt. It'll be someone. He says he takes pictures and sends them to his buddy. He goes, the G is always around, which is very true. The G is always around. So, I mean, that's a really, really long answer, but it means a lot.
It's a great answer. I just got back from Florida, took a little trip down there. I know we were messaging back and forth while I was down there in Orlando, and everywhere you went, you seen Packers gear. It was just amazing. It's just such a cool fan base, and that's what this show is. It's very. I have people message me sometimes, Daryl. You know how it is on social media. Like, you're such a homer. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I am proud of it. Packer show. Yeah.
that's what we do. That's what we do, right? So when you arrived in Green Bay in 1990, I think a lot of people don't realize that, you were the first round pick, and then Leroy, if I remember correctly, he was drafted in the second round that same year. Am I thinking right, Leroy Butler?
Yeah. Leroy's a good friend. I talk to him probably about once a month. He's hilarious. I love him.
He's an amazing man. Such a, every time Leroy speaks, Packer fans should listen, because he wears his heart on his sleeve. He loves this organization, loves everything about the history, everything you just talked about. But when you guys got there in 1990, what was the culture like? You're coming, that organization's coming out of, a couple of decades really of just, I don't want to say bad play, but, you go from the Lombardi years, right? And then you step into the 70s and the 80s, and you kind of had that bar already raised that, look, this is title town. This is where you win championships. And then you kind of come in kicking off the 90s there in 1990 being drafted. What did you feel like the culture was when you stepped in, or maybe as a young football player? Was it like, I just have blinders on, I don't really pay attention to, was it a losing culture or what have you?
It was a disconnect. I didn't know, and I never played pro football before, hadn't been around. It was I'd say an unhealthy culture. So people were, just out. They didn't care about they weren't worried about, they weren't doing the little things that it takes to be successful. So there's little things, taking care of your body, getting rest, getting massage, doing the extra film work, not drinking during the week, all the things that happened later that evolved through partly through the coaching staff and partly through the leadership on the team, because good teams are player driven and coach driven, and that was not taking place on this team. It was, the coaches were doing everything they could, but the culture was eroding, and the players were just kind of running around town doing whatever they wanted to do, and football was not the primary focus. And you don't win if football's not your primary focus.
Right. We had Tony Mandarich on several months ago, and he would echo that. I kind of gave him an out a little bit, Daryl. I'm like, hey, look, everybody looks at you as this draft bust, right? And you step in, and obviously they had been losing for 2 decades. So it's not like all of a sudden you guys got there and, oh, we're horrible, right? You guys being Tony, and Tony was like, listen, I like I said, I kind of teed up and out for him. And he was like, it was all on me. I didn't take it serious. I was all about myself. I wasn't consumed with football. I was consumed with everything else, and just took complete ownership of it. So he pretty much echoes the same message you just said, that there's guys just kind
of. He didn't have the leadership, and I mean, Tony, and I love Tony. He's a great guy. Played against him in college, played with him in the NFL. It wasn't Tony. I mean, he could take some of the blame, like, hey, you know what? If someone brings you into this bar and you start drinking, then it's your fault. But that was the culture at that point. It wasn't healthy. And the leadership on the team wasn't really going in the right direction. So, I mean, he could take some of the blame. I take some of the blame. It was a tough time to be a Green Bay Packer, especially in that isolated situation that we were all in at that point.
Yeah, definitely. So let's fast forward to 1992. 92, you guys go 9-7, right? And if I remember correctly, that's the year that that did Mike Holmgren come in 92 or was it 93? I think he came in 93 if I remember correctly, but nonetheless, 92. What changed in 92 that you guys kind of shifted gears and you go to 9-7? The reason I wanted to have you on the show, Daryl, is because the Packers' current team, they're kind of in a similar situation, right? You had a down year last year. This year, you've got an opportunity to win out and win 9 games. The youngest team in the league. I'm just trying to draw some parallels because really that 92 season, everyone loves to look at 96 when they won the Super Bowl. But 92, in my opinion, probably the most important year of the entire 90s decade because you guys kind of turned it around, created a winning culture, and really ramped this thing up. I think you went 9-7 that year. You went 9-7 the next year, then 9-7 again, and then kind of got over the hump, obviously. But you were there in 92 when you guys went 9-7. What do you think the big difference was there? What changed?
Oh, I mean, I think it was Mike Holmgren. I want to say it was the first year of Coach Holmgren coming to the team, listening to the players, changing the practice, the way we practice, changing the way he addressed the team, and allowing the team to be more player led. And that was one of the pieces to me that what Mike Holmgren did. He said, I want to hear from your players. I want to hear from my leaders. And he established a players council where they'd come and sit with him and they'd talk, and kind of whatever, eat pizza and chat. And they'd come back and talk to the team. So he had, obviously, some of the leaders that were on the team as part of that. And they kind of came and went. So, I mean, the number one piece was, Mike Holmgren joining the team. And then, some players that were maybe part of that unhealthy culture were starting to be let go. And he was establishing a new culture. He said, either you get on with this new culture or are we going to move on away from you? So that was, to me, that was the beginning of being healthy and, starting to turn the team and the program and the Green Bay Packer organization around.
Got it. Then, of course, in 1993, you guys go out and you sign Reggie White. I've got to ask, Daryl, what was your experience with Reggie White? I've talked to several of his teammates. Mike Wall, a young Mike Wall, offensive lineman, went up against Reggie, right, his rookie year in practice. And he was like, Reggie was just different. He was a different kind of strong. When you hit Reggie, you felt it. Obviously, you being, on the opposite side, you guys practiced against each other, I would imagine, 93. What's kind of the big takeaway with Reggie? What stood out to you about Reggie?
Well, number one was his faith. And then number two was he was a man. Like he was a man's man. So there wasn't any, no messing around and all fun. I mean, on the football field, but off the field, he was fun. He was, he had, a really, really great sense of humor, and he's a great family man. And he had a really good time. So, but to me on the field, his strength and his stamina were incredible. And he's right. I mean, he had, like there's some really, really strong guys. And then there's like the, the Wilt Chamberlain, Arnold Schwarzenegger type of, like, I have like this almost superhuman type of strength, and balance and coordination. And that's what Reggie had. And it was something to not be tampered with. And he didn't abuse it. He never, like, when in the NFL, you got to practice against each other. And, if I had to go block Reggie, he could have just rolled me over anytime. It's like, what? I just went and I tapped his leg. Goes, it doesn't do me good to beat you up in practice. He was saving it for the game. He could run over my little 220-pound self anytime he wanted to. He's like, why would I do that? I'm hurt you, just to run to the quarterback. No, class act all the way around.
Yeah. I'm not sure if you got a chance to see the 30 for 30 Minister of Defense that just came out. Gosh, it was amazing. Did you get a chance to watch it yet or no?
No, you know what? I have it taped, but I'm not. I just saw it on our system here, just like, I don't know, like last week or something, but I've not got to it yet, but I will be.
It is amazing. It is, man, you think you've got all the respect in the world for a man, and then you watch that, and me, being on the outside as a fan, obviously, come away going, even more respect. Just how he was just an amazing person, absolutely amazing person. I got a chance to meet his wife in Green Bay. They had like an autograph session or whatever. This was back in the early 2000s when they retired his number at Lambeau. And what an amazing family, just amazing group of people. True leader in every sense of the word. I'm located in Tennessee. You probably tell with the accent, but obviously he just done so many good things down here in Tennessee, going to UT down here in Knoxville down the road, and just an amazing person.
So I played. I was broadcasting a game, and I did Charles Davis. Now he's in the NFL, and he was doing college games as early in my broadcasting career. And players just talking. Hey, you want to know a little bit about your team? And he's talking about. I said, oh, you said you played with Reggie. He goes, I played with Reggie in college. He goes, I thought I was a really good defensive back. He said, and then I realized it was Reggie. He said he said they were throwing me balls when I was a freshman. He said, and then he said Reggie left. He said also, I was like, I'm a regular defensive back. But he said when the quarterback is terrified, he said it makes me look like I'm Lem Barney or Deion Sanders back there. He said when he's not terrified, he said I'm Charles Davis. He said so, but great guy, and he was funny and kind of self-aware. Great person.
You said Charles Davis, right? Is that right?
Yeah. I believe he's an NFL analyst right now. He was a college analyst at that point, and we just crossed paths like in the hallway when I was broadcasting. We just kind of chatting each other a little bit about our team. Just a little.
It's such a small world. He actually went to high school about 15 minutes from where I'm located, up in a place called Elizabeth in Tennessee.
Yeah,
back in the sticks. So Charles is great at what he does. I love following his broadcast, everything. Obviously, he's worked for Fox now. I think he's with CBS now. Does a great job. Knows so much about the game. So well spoken too. I got to ask you before we let you go here. I know we're up against the gun, and I appreciate you taking time to jump on here with us. Sterling Sharpe, you played with him a little bit as well, right?
I did, and Sterling is the best football player that I ever played with.
Wow.
Or against that is not in the Hall of Fame. And Sterling is the smartest football player that I ever played with. I mean, Sterling, I could tell you story after story about his intelligence, his awareness, his confidence. I don't think I ever played with anyone who was more confident than Sterling Sharpe either. Sterling Sharpe would, a little bit like a Larry Bird or something. He's like, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to do it to you. So that is like the ultimate, and like I could do that to my son, when he's 12 years old and I'm 35 years old. But I mean he was one of the best football players and should be in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully one day that will happen.
Yeah, how do we make that happen? How do we do that, Daryl?
Well, I think it's raising the awareness. It's tough. Every single year there's a great class and not very many guys go in. It's just that's the NFL. Leroy had the opportunity to go in and win in, and it's one more vote. And I'm sure he's voting for Sterling, and I don't know exactly how it all works, but I think it's you need to lobby. You need to have people whose brothers in there. Leroy's in there. There's a whole bunch of defensive backs that are probably like, I didn't like covering that cat. So I would think there's I hope it happens. I don't have any sway, other than my little voice that I have on, on the radio and, my influence I might have around town, but hopefully it happens.
Got it. Well, we can't thank you enough for joining us. This has been an awesome conversation. Finding you on Twitter and the cesspool that can be Twitter. It's nice to find some positive on Twitter every now and then. And it's going to be awesome talking to you in the future. We really appreciate your time. Is there anything that we can do for Boulder Options? Is there any way that people can donate? We can contribute. Is there anything we can do to Boulder Options as far as helping you continue to mentor the youth there in Minneapolis and the surrounding areas?
Well, we're in our year-end push right now. I was at my desk yesterday. It's the final letter. It's the final push for the year end. So if someone wants to donate, they can go to our website, boulderoptions.org. And we're founded in Boulder, Colorado. That's where the name came from. But boulderoptions.org. We're running, biking, and setting goals with youth around the state of Minnesota, and have been for the last 30 years. And hopefully we'll continue to do that. So if someone wants to support us, they can go to our website. So, yeah, thank you very much, Clayton.
Oh, Daryl, thank you so much for your time, buddy. We really appreciate you. All right, that was Darrell Thompson, like I said, former Green Bay Packer, amazing person out there continuing to make a difference in his community, all that stuff. I love hearing stories from some of the players that played in these different eras, because this was a different time, man. When you watch the tape of those guys playing football in the 90s, man. Oh my gosh. Like Emilio, we bring Emilio in here from Tennessee now. I was watching the highlights when I pulled that clip of him, with his first touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Just watching the hits. It's like,
oh yeah,
gosh. Oh my gosh. And it's why I get so so aggravated when some fans, they're like, "Oh, it's a soft game now, this and that." It has changed absolutely, but for the better, man. It was when I watched Concussion, that the movie Concussion, when I realized, you know what, you need to stop trying to act like a tough guy, because I was that guy that was constantly going, man, they're ruining the game, changing the rules, and with all this concussion stuff, look at what these old players had to put up with. You're changing the game. And to hear some of the stories with the Mike Websters and all those, man, I was in tears watching that movie. It broke me down. Like, I'm sitting over here trying to act like a tough guy, you're ruining the game.
Yeah, that's the Kleenex, Manny.
Yeah, it's like seeing what they went through, and to lay the foundation for the league. It's people like Daryl that helped lay it. Spent 4 or 5 years in the league, if I remember correctly. I think 4 years, and now found his life's work outside of football. Man, that's what it's all about. What'd you think about that, man? How about that for a football life? Being able to be drafted 1 round ahead of Hall of Famer Leroy Butler. Right, first round pick, and then you come in and you get coached by Mike Holmgren. Right, obviously you played with Brett, got to play with Reggie White, Sterling Sharpe, Emilio. Imagine
yeah,
that football life.
That is awesome. I mean, it's one thing, let alone, would be awesome. You stack all those on top of each other, it's unreal. And like you said, he came from a family of athletes, generational talent of athletes. Across generations, and different sports, everything. So it's incredible to see, honestly. I was watching that the one highlight of his 98-yard touchdown run against Michigan. So once he broke through, and that lean, it looked like he was a DN. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. He came around that bend and just was like parallel to the ground, basically.
Yeah, he's a physical specimen, man. And like he said, his wife was a collegiate athlete. You hear about all the accolades in the family, like all the way back to his great aunt that was literally the first black, not just first black woman to win a gold medal, but the first black athlete to win a gold medal.
Right.
Like, that blew me away. I didn't even know that part going into the interview. And then, of course, brother and sister both played collegiate volleyball. Got 4 kids. I think he said they were all collegiate athletes at the time. When I was looking, I thought there was only 3 of them. And it sounds like all 4 athletes. Yeah, like you said, guys, put it on the ticker. Marry up. All right, marry up. That's the key to life. Marry up. So, with that being said, let's go to the chat here. I know we were on a limited time. I appreciate Daryl taking time away from the family. Like you say, got a sick grandbaby, and
100%.
And helping he said his wife's getting ready to teach a yoga class, so he stepped downstairs to get on here.
And during the holidays, I mean, you can't thank him enough for hopping on.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Let's go to the chat here real quick. Sideline Report says Reggie White and Gilbert Brown were dogs. I didn't even ask him about Gilbert Brown, but that was interesting too, trying to run against him in practice. That big hog mile in the middle. Unbelievable.
Yeah. One of those wrap-ups. Can we just get a wrap-up? We don't need to tackle him to the ground.
Yeah. Let's see here. Omer in the chat says, I loved Reggie when he was an Eagle. When they made the trade, I was over the moon. Yeah, I haven't found one fan that didn't like Reggie. What's crazy is even the Eagle fans, they were okay with him leaving because it was like, yeah, go get the money you deserve. You know what I mean? Usually a fan base is kind of toxic with a player on the way. I mean, look at how it happened with Brett Favre. Look how it happened you go all the way down the line. Greg Jennings, it was toxic when he left. Obviously, Aaron this last year got ugly. Reggie left. It's almost like the Philly fans are like, Reggie, do what you got to do, buddy. We love you. Thank you.
Thank you for everything you've done here.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was a dog. Hey, have you get a chance to watch that 30 for 30 yet, Emilio?
I started watching it from the beginning last night. I got through about like 45 minutes of it.
It is wild, man. The end is just so good. Because I remember kind of keeping up with that whole story from the outside looking in. I wasn't a huge, I was a knucklehead. I was in my early 20s at the time. I had no clue what was going on. But to see how he kind of stepped out of the norm and tried to find his own truth to his faith. It's amazing how people will get criticized for trying to find a little more truth. It's almost like society teaches you, shut up, fall in line, we'll tell you what to think. And anytime anybody gets out of that norm, they try to paint you out as a bad guy. I love that Reggie did that and kind of dug a little deeper. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, he basically Christian faith his whole life, and then decided, you know what, why don't I go back and try to learn the original Hebrew text and understand what being a Christian, it is. If you're not, it's totally cool. Bear with me here, all right? But basically, Reggie's saying, let me go read what text that Jesus studied, right? And when he got to digging into those texts, it was like, holy cow, there's a lot here that I missed. And the church pushed back on him a bit. Society pushed back on him at times. And it was just so cool that he had those blinders on, just like he did on the football field. Like, I'm going to find my truth, and I don't care what anybody else thinks. And that's what true leaders do, man.
Yeah, and he was saying that he was going to test the NFL because they kept saying that, like, he couldn't pray. He couldn't pray on the sideline before the game or after the game or whatever. And said, all right, let me just make sure that they're actually going to do something about that. And he just kept rolling with it.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. All right, let's do this, man. Let's talk for a second here. Let's talk about the standings. Anybody got a question in the chat? Anything, any comment, any topic y'all want to hit on? I was prepared to go the full show with Daryl, but wanted to respect his time too. So
100%.
I think we got all the questions I wanted answered in there. I wanted to hear about his time in Green Bay, which it was so cool hearing about that. But
I'm sure if we were to get him back on, he's got 100 more stories just like that. I'm sure he's got one for Brett, one for Sterling. Like you said, Reggie, everything. He could go on and on about how smart they were, how effective they were as football players. Everything, man. They're pro athletes. Any bit of information we can dig out of him is great.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I know I had a screenshot here of the updated standings. I'm going to see if I can run it down real quick. This is good podcast here. Just randomly with the updated ones. I know I had them before the Rams game and some things have shifted. I could always just read it off to you guys too if we can't get it to screenshot here. Let's see if it'll screenshot real quick. It's going to be a little wonky like it always is, but these are the NFC standings. And just to kind of show you guys, there's a little glimmer of hope, a little bit. We'll kind of talk about a few of the scenarios and some of the upcoming games to see what Green Bay has to do to potentially get into the playoffs, which, like I said,
it's just winning out, right?
That's the thing. Take care of business, man. Take care of business. San Francisco in the 1 seed. You got Dallas in the 2, Detroit in the 3, Tampa in the 4 at 7-7. Philly at number 5 at 10-4. The LA Rams are now the 6th seed at 8-7. If you have won the last 2 weeks, that would be the Packers right now, right? That's what hurts. Of course, the Rams play the Giants this week. That should be a win for them with how the Rams are playing, although we know any given Sunday. In the 7th seed, you got Minnesota at 7-7, Seattle at 7-7 in the 8. The 9 spot, you got New Orleans at 7-8. The Atlanta Falcons at number 10 at 6-8, and then the Green Bay Packers in the 11th spot at 6-8. So essentially, you got to win out, and even then, you need a little bit of help, from what I understand. But you got Minnesota coming up next week, I believe it is, in Minnesota. That's one where you can kind of control your own destiny. You just got to take care of business this week. Obviously, traveling to Carolina, that's going to be the big thing, and then need a little bit of help. So if we look at the games to watch, Emilio, this week, it's a little blurry. I'll read it off to you. I just showed here that obviously the Rams beat the Saints there just the other night. Today we've got some football, but it's just all AFC matchups. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. You got Buffalo at the Chargers. And then tomorrow, man, we've got football all day long. You got the Indianapolis Colts at the Atlanta Falcons. I've got Indy circled. Obviously you want every NFC team to lose from here on out. I don't care about, if this one wins the division and that. Look, let's win our games and let's make sure as many of these teams are losing as possible. That's what I was trying to say several. Well, we can still win the North. Let's focus on getting these teams beat down as much as possible so we can slide into that 6 or 7 seed. That should be the goal here. But Green Bay at Carolina, that's a 1 o'clock kickoff, same time as the Indy-Atlanta game. You got the 1 o'clock kickoff, Detroit at Minnesota. I'm going to be wearing my Lions gear for that one. Under my Packers gear, you want the Lions to come away with the win there, which feel pretty good about that one, especially with Nick Mullins. Like, to me, they are not playing good football in Minnesota outside of the defense here of recently. Seattle at Tennessee, you're obviously pulling for the Titans to win that game there. And then we got the 4 o'clock slates we'll talk about. But right here, what do you think about our chances, Emilio? Indy at Atlanta, obviously us at Carolina, Detroit at Minnesota, and then Seattle at Tennessee. When we look at the standings, if we bounce back one more time here, Seattle obviously 1 spot ahead of us. That's going to be kind of a big game there, man, if somehow, some way Tennessee can pull off that win in the 1 o'clock slot too, right?
Oh, we need Tennessee there, 100%. And Indy would be awesome as well. We already lost to Atlanta, so any losses we can get stacked on top of them is going to be huge. Like you said, we are paper bag fans to or Sunday. We'll throw it on underneath the Packers jersey and we'll watch that game. But no, seriously, I mean, we have to show up, right, for Carolina, and really we just need some help. But we can't control anything else, so we just have to go out there and play our 60 minutes, and then look up at the end. We can't be scoreboard watching the whole game just to see, hey, if Detroit, was losing, or if Indy's getting smacked or something. We can't just, not stop balling right then because, hey, we're out of it. Like that's the last thing I want to see is them sort of give up just because they think that they're out of it. So we want to see them play through.
That's the thing too. Like whether you make the playoffs or not, what we're trying to do is create momentum. Momentum is a real thing in the NFL, and it carries over from year to year. It really does. So the thought of, well, let's just lose and get a better draft pick. That's why I've never subscribed to that thought process. I get it. Some fans love the draft as much or more than they love the game itself, right? Some people are rolling their eyes saying, oh, there's no way. I'm telling you, they're out there. They would much rather have a higher draft pick than win a football game. But what they're not taking into consideration is the momentum you can create, the culture that you're developing. You want the returning players of that team coming back next year thinking, we've got a shot. Mm-hmm. We finished on a good note. We were doing things right at the end of the year. And to think that it's okay to just, oh, no, lose. Imagine a player in that locker room who's busting their arse to constantly put themselves in a better position, right, and get the team on the right track. And then to think for a second that someone in the organization is like, well, I don't know, though. I'd rather have a better draft pick.
Right.
It's not the thought process, coaches or the players. And that's what was so mind-boggling about the Russell Douglas trade.
Would you rather come into next season 9-8 or 6-11? I mean, we're all off season. Yeah, dude. We had double-digit losses, or yeah, dude, we had one more win than a loss. That's what I'm looking at. Let's come out positive, above 500. Let's not fall into that trap of being 6-11.
Yeah, definitely. We got Jacob now from the Packernet Fantasy Podcast. My man been busier than a possum in a dumpster here lately. Jacob, what's going on, big dog? How you doing this morning?
Man, not bad. I sent a text to Emilio, and I said, are we going live at 8? And what did he say? Something about Darrell Thompson. I have no idea what that means. So I went, all right, whatever. And then I looked up, and I was like, oh, they're live.
I forgot he's Central.
Right.
Oh, no.
Welcome to my world, Emilio. I've had to deal with this for 2 years now. I'm constantly going. I feel like I'm doing like trigonometry over here, trying to figure, okay, who's in there? And then I'm doing interviews with people out west, like we did the Tony Mandrich interview. I'm like, okay, you're in Arizona. What time?
They don't even do it. They don't even do fall back and stuff in Arizona. That'll throw you off even more.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. That would confuse the heck out of my I'm just starting. So yeah, sorry. If I'd have seen it, if I hadn't been talking to Daryl there, I would have let you know, Jacob. I apologize. Doug in the chat says Holmgren and Wolf made an effort to make Green Bay more welcoming to young black men, brought in barbers like MKE Weekly, catered Southern food, etc. Leroy Butler talked about that a lot too. He did. It was a cool kind of shift in the culture for sure. I'll tell you someone else who doesn't get credit for that type of approach, and in a time when it was much more prevalent, I should say. Vince Lombardi, way ahead of his time. There's a story, if you watch his football life, I can't remember which player it was, but essentially there was one of his black players was dating a white woman, right? And caught a lot of flack for it. And someone from the league at the time came to Vince and basically said, you can't tell me how to run my team. Like he jumped down their throat. Like I run my team how I want to run my team. You worry about yours, essentially is what he said. He was having none of it. And basically he went to that player and approached him about it. With Vince being Italian-American growing up in New York, many people think that there's only one race or two races that get scrutinized. Guys, you can go through multi-cultures across the history of the country. Italians were scrutinized when they came to the country, right? Irish, believe it or not, look into Irish slavery. How many Irish, people were enslaved for so long, right? Mm-hmm. So it's something that's happened throughout time, obviously with multi-cultures. But Vince went to that player, though, And he said the player was kind of like, oh, crap, he's going to tell me I can't date her or whatever. And he's like, listen, I've got your back, essentially is what Vince told him. And you should see this guy's reaction telling the story and how emotional he got. I think it was actually he ended up marrying her. And Vince kind of gave him his blessing. So, yeah, it's cool to see Holmgren and Wolf kind of carry that on too, man, because race is just so stupid, man. It drives me crazy even talking about it. But that's why it's so important to acknowledge the people who fought through that adversity, like we talked about Daryl's great aunt did, becoming the first Black American athlete to win a gold medal. That's just amazing. But let's see here. Let's get back to the games to watch here. 4:00 window. Jacksonville at Tampa. Tampa's like my new rival, man. I can't stand Tampa after last week. That makes me just want to choke people. I used to like Tampa too. It was one of those things that I kind of like their uniforms. Loved Mike Allstott in the 90s. Now I'm like the hell with Tampa. Whatever. I hope they fall flat on their face. Jacksonville at Tampa. Jacksonville, pretty good ball club. We need to know if Trevor Lawrence is playing in that game. If anybody knows in the chat, hit us up. Jamie, look that up. See if you can figure out if Trevor Lawrence is healthy yet or not, because that's going to play a big factor in that game. I can't remember if he played last week or not, but it's going to be a 4:00 kickoff in Tampa. Tampa are actually 3-point favorites there. And then, of course, you got Dallas at Miami in the 4:25 slot. Miami is a 1-point favorite there. I've got Dallas. I've got Dallas circled there just because, I don't think it really plays a role. As much so if we look back at the standings, Dallas is the number 2 seed. You want them to kind of hold on to that, I guess. It don't really matter, but that's probably why I circled Dallas. You guys know I'm pulling for Coach Mike anytime he's not playing the Packers. These are my personal picks of who I would like to see win the games. Some people are going, there you go, rooting for Dallas again, Clayton. Tired of seeing it. What do you guys think about this, Jake? Let me ask you, man. Jacksonville at Tampa. That's the big one there in the 4:00 window. We need Tampa to drop one there. We need all these NFC teams to lose that are toward the bottom there fighting for that 6th and 7th seed. You like your chances, Jacksonville at Tampa, man?
Yeah, it sounds like Trevor Lawrence, he's in the concussion protocol, I believe, still. And that backup was C.J. Beathard, which I don't know if you guys remember him. He was, I believe, a backup in San Francisco at one point.
Yeah, that sounds familiar, yeah.
Maybe he didn't beat the Packers, but I know I watched him beat maybe they beat the Vikings one. Anyways, he's a capable quarterback, but he's not anything I'm necessarily worried about as far as, I don't know, man. I just, like you said, Tampa Bay really, really rubbed me the wrong way. I used to be, I was never one of those guys that's like, my second favorite team is blah, blah, blah. I've always been diehard Packers, but the two people that I've loved in the NFL, just for like Mike Allstott and John Lynch. I wore number 47 because John Lynch was my favorite bumper of all time. And then on the other side, dude, Mike Allstott. Watching that dude run, I was like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm. That whole defense too, man. Like, especially, when Tony Dungy really got it to its peak. I mean, Rondé Barber, Derek Brooks in the middle.
Simeon Rice, wasn't he on that team too?
Right. Was Warren on that one?
Warren Sapp. I know many Packer fans don't like Warren Sapp because they, he and Brett had that little rivalry, which they were friends. A lot of people don't realize that. Mm-hmm. Just two Southern boys going at it constantly. That Tampa Bay team was a lot of fun to watch, man. And when they changed those uniforms up, that's when everything changed. It was like, man, they had a new identity.
Remember Wart Dunn too?
Oh yeah, Wart Dunn from Florida State.
He didn't get a lot of credit, but he was a beast.
You put him and Allstott in the backfield. What are you going to do to stop that running game? Right. Allstott will smack you in the mouth with a lead block, then they'll hand it on a fullback belly, and good luck tackling that big guy. That dude had a head like a dump truck, man. Sideline Report says we need the Seahawks and Falcons to lose. All right, so I definitely trust Sideline Report. Love your work, man. Love following you on Twitter, YouTube, all that. Yeah, we need the Seahawks and the Falcons to lose. So let's jump back to those games real quick, right? When you look at the Seahawks, we haven't talked about yet, I don't think. But the Falcons game, obviously Indy at Atlanta. Indy's got a little bit of momentum, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I think they won again last week, but they are 2.5-point dogs down there in Atlanta. If it wasn't Christmas Eve, I could see two of these games I might be interested in going to. Right. Indy at Atlanta and Seattle at Tennessee. So
it's rowdy in that stadium, man. In Atlanta, it gets it's not quiet down there. So, but at least Indy's used to a infield stadium, and they just gotta get through the bird's nest. That's what they call it down there. So I like it.
Sideline Report says if the Packers win and the Seahawks and Falcons both lose, the Packers will go to the 8th playoff spot. Okay, so the Packers win and the Seahawks and the Falcons lose. Let's pull it up one more time here. will go to the 8 spot, which will put up knocking on the door there, right?
Mhm.
Knocking on the door.
And if the Lions do their job,
Yeah, so if the Lions beat the Vikings,
we'll probably be right around there, right?
I'd like to sideline report. Do you know the answer to that question? Let's say those 2 things happen, or those 3 things happen. The Packers win, the Seahawks and the Falcons both lose, and the Vikings lose. Will the Vikings still be technically in that 7 spot? I know it really doesn't matter because we'll be able to control our own destiny. They're playing Minnesota and knocking them down next week. But see if we've got an answer to that too.
That would be interesting too, because if we could get the DeVito-led Giants to knock down the Rams one more game, that sets us up for the next couple weeks. We could maybe even. Does he on the report? Does he know what still the best possible highest ranking we could get is if all the stars align?
I imagine it's the 8 seed, but or the 7 seed. I don't think it's out of the 6, but I could be wrong there. I mean, if you look at it, if all of these teams lose, right? If the Rams lose out, which would make them what, 8 and 10, right?
Yeah.
So, or they just
8 and 9.
8 and 9, yes.
Yeah, right.
Where they can be is 8 and 9, and we went out, we're 9 and 8. Then we could leapfrog the Rams for sure.
Right. Yeah, he said. There you go. Sideline just said number 6 would be the highest.
Be the best. Okay, he's got it all on lock here. Appreciate you, buddy. Thanks for the information there. Let's see here. Let's go back to a little Warren Sapp talk. Doug bringing back some old memories here. He's going to make us hate him now. He said Sapp did the cheap shot on Shad Clifton. That was the game where Mike Sherman screamed at Sapp for the cheap shot after the game, and Sapp said, "Put a jersey on." Listen, I love what Brett referred to Mike Sherman as Sugar Bear, right? I like Mike Sherman. I love what Mike Wall said the other day too. If you guys caught that interview, he said he was like a lawyer. Like he was so calculated in what he would say to you. He was one step ahead. It was just constantly. He knew exactly what he was trying to get, especially out of that offensive line with Mike Sherman being an offensive line guy. But I love Mike Sherman. But I got to be honest with you guys. That hit on Clifton, I had no problem with it. Like,
wasn't that on like a reception return, an interception return, or something? And did like a
right. Clifton didn't have his head on swivel. You know, he was kind of trotting upfield, and Sapp took his shot.
Those were the best crackbacks. Oh my good golly God!
This is the guy. I'm the guy that got thrown out of high school baseball games. Okay, so you got to understand where I'm coming from.
You've already seen what I like, so I
love like if that had been a Packer do that, worth the flag, throw a flag. I don't care, worth it. You're sending a message. Here's the other thing too. You're taking out arguably one of the best, probably the best offensive lineman at the time too.
Right. I mean, if you're still standing up straight and the other dude is horizontal, that is a great hit. That is what we're looking for. Too bad they took him out. But I mean, I used to do it all the time back in Madden. You know, you just do kickoff returns just on repeat and just loop back around and just wait to absolutely.
I remember. I mean, that was what you kind of that's what they coached in special teams. Like I graduated in 2006. I was the long snapper, and you know, you couldn't touch the snapper, so I'd get a free shot off the line, and I'd go to the second level, and I would just curl back around.
Yes,
somebody not looking.
And like, what are you taught if you're Chad Clifton in that situation? You're taught to keep your head on a swivel. You got caught. Yeah, it is what it is, right?
You better have your tongue. You better have your tongue in your mouth on that one, or else.
You're gonna lose that. You're gonna lose about a quarter of that tongue if you don't. It's gonna be dangling. Now, as far as Mike Sherman going after Sapp, I appreciate that too. Right, he's protecting his guy. He's defending his guy. As far as Sapp saying put a jersey on, I agree with that too. You want to run that mouth? Put a jersey on, old man. Get out here. So I don't know, man. I was a Packer fan when it happened. You know, I just become a Packer fan around that time. It seems like it was in the early 2000s. I became a Packer fan in 02, 03. But, I remember watching the play and going, as a Packer fan going, I don't think that's dirty. Like, I've watched that hit in high school my entire life. People getting blown up like that. So, anyway, it sucks to see anybody get hurt, and obviously with the concussion stuff too, for sure. But I understand your sentiment there, Doug. If you don't like the hit, I get it. I completely get it for sure. Let's see. Bleeding Green and Gold in the chat says, based on how they're playing right now, I think there's a better chance we lose out than win, and that pains me to say. And I pick the Pack at 17-0 every year. Yeah. Hey, listen, I don't think that's a hot take, for someone to say, with the way the team's performing, especially the defense right now, that that they couldn't win another game the rest of the year. Am I hoping for that? Absolutely not. But I don't think that's a crazy hot take. They've got to break this little cycle here, man. And you better hope they break it before the end of the season. It's like the poll we talked about last night. Jacob, did you hear about that poll we covered last night?
No, I'm all confused reading through the chat. I was like, I don't understand what's happening.
So this is what happened. Jason Wilde, Mark Towser, I think, was the one who put it up. Big Cat swooped in and took credit for it, which is hilarious. And Mark Towser called Big Cat out over it. Anyway, there was a poll put up, and they asked Packer fans, would you rather the Packers win out and win a playoff game, win out and make the playoffs and keep Joe Barry because obviously the defense is playing better and they've turned the corner, or would you rather lose out and fire Joe Barry? And it was 84% said they would rather them lose out in the season on a 5-game losing streak just so you can fire Joe Barry. I was just mind-boggling, man. That's what we're referring to there. So anyway, what's your thoughts on that, Jacob? You agree with that, man?
I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. That seems like, shooting yourself on the foot. I will say this, though, that I thought about it, and I won't know until tomorrow morning when I wake up what I'm feeling, what the vibe is out there. But at this point, I mean, what was it? I read a stat somewhere that the Carolina Panthers over the last 8 games have not surpassed 21 points on offense. So, I mean, right now, with what this team has in front of them, the possibilities after the way we performed the last 2 weeks, knowing that all we had to do was beat very beatable teams if we just had a pretty, if you just played your game and did like a D+ job on defense, we should have won both those games, I'd argue. So if we go into this game, a game that we should win, a game that we're favored in, where we know that we know exactly what we have to do. If we drop this game, I really will be on the, you got to fire Joe Barry, now. Because now it really is at the point where the season now is based 100% off of whether or not his guys can just play, again, D+ football to just get us. And I don't understand the concept of, we want to win out just so that I can personally get a victory, in my opinion. That to me is such a petty high school type mentality where it's like, I don't understand how you think that helps you whatsoever. Even if you are going to get rid of Joe Barry, I would argue even if we won out, the same people could argue that they want to get rid of Joe Barry.
Absolutely. That's what Mike Hebring said in the chat last night, Jake. It was like, how about we win out and we get rid of him? I'm on board with that.
And then you look back and you're like, okay, he couldn't get us against the Bucks, couldn't beat the DeVito-led Giants. Whatever happens in this Panther game, and then you got a Lions and a Vikings team that are coming down the stretch that could be resting guys and not even really care. So, it wouldn't be that much of a shocker for me if we did win out and fire him. I would be, I don't know, man. LaFleur seems like he's got some sort of blood bond oath with this guy, but other than that.
Here's the thing. People keep saying that, Jacob, and I understand the sentiment, I do. But what Matt is doing is Matt is going, and people hate hearing this. I know they despise it. He's going and watching the tape and going, okay, why is this player playing off here when the call was man coverage? Well, he didn't get the call. Why didn't he get the call? He was on the far side of the field. All other 10 players got the call, but the far side corner didn't get the call. So what did he do? He played it safe, oh, crap, I don't know what the defense call is. I'm going to make sure I don't get burned deep here, right? And, oh, by the way, it's a 7th-round rookie. So Matt's looking at that and going, okay, how the hell am I going to blame that on Joe Barry? It's Joe Barry's responsibility to make sure he gets, the communications. I got you. But the problem wasn't Joe Barry didn't communicate it in time. The problem was your 7th-round rookie did not look to the sideline to see the hand signals, and he was late getting his eyes over, so he waited for the call to come across. So he went, hurry up, and he didn't get the call, right? That's one example. Last week, when you watch the tape, what do you see? When you see that, I know people are tired of hearing about it, but I'm giving you Matt LaFleur's perspective here. I know the easy thing is to say, blame this guy, he's bad, blame him. Last year it was blame Rodgers, he's bad, blame Rodgers. This year earlier it was blame Christian Watson, it was blame Jordan Love, it was blame Matt LaFleur. Now it's let's blame Joe Barry for everything. But when you go with that quad right look, and they motioned over, when you're in a cover 3 look, which is what they were in a cover 3 zone, there's only one way you play that unless you're playing zone match, which we all confirm they're not playing zone match. You see Key go to the flat. The goal is box on the 3 side, triangle on the 2. So they had the triangle set up on the 2, and there was one player missing to complete the box on the 3 side, and that was Quay Walker. He sat in the middle of the field and didn't cover a soul. And I guarantee you, Matt LaFleur went back, they watched the tape and go, what happened here? I don't know what Quay's doing. He knows they're in a 3-by-2. Why is he sitting in the middle of the field covering no one? No one within 8 yards of him. That's what Matt's looking at. Now, I think Matt's already made the decision, whether he's told Barry or not. I think he's made the decision to move on from Joe Barry. But when he gets asked those questions and people go, he's just covering for his buddy. He's not covering for his buddy, boys. If it was a bad call, a bad play call, like you guys remember if we rewind 2 weeks ago when that happened with Carrington Valentine on the boundary, he said, yeah, we can't be playing that far off. That was a man coverage call. We can't be playing that far off. As soon as he said that was a man coverage call, I knew it was man on the field. I watched the tape. Everyone else was playing man. Carrington was playing like a soft zone. So you can tell one of these things, it's like remember the old games, one of these don't belong. It's like you can see, okay, that guy's zone defense doesn't belong in conjunction with everyone else. So when you look at it from that angle, what Matt was saying was you can't be playing that far off in man coverage. He wasn't saying Joe Barry can't be playing that far off. But why did people immediately go to that conclusion? Because that's what all the hot take podcasters are saying. We're playing so soft. We're playing so soft. It is the new Aaron Rodgers refuses to throw across the middle. That's what it is this year. So it's just you get a handful of people that trumpet that, and then it becomes, okay, that's the answer to all of the issues. And all I'm simply saying, all I've said all year is the tape suggests there's a ton of mental mistakes. The coaching is horrible on the defensive side of the ball. They're not preparing the players properly. That, in my opinion, should be a justification for Joe Barry losing his job. There's no two ways about it. But to sit here and pretend like these problems are going to magically be fixed when you're drafting high athletic profile players, right? And then expecting them to play like high football IQ players. I think there's still going to be a little displacement there. Hopefully we can get a stud in here at DC to clean it all up, but it's a bit of a mess right now. I don't know if that made sense or not, Jake. It was kind of a long-winded answer, but it just I get so sick of people berating people for watching the tape and then creating this false narrative like, oh, no, that's the answer to all of the questions. There were several plays like Mike Wall pointed. They were playing too far off. And in the past, what have we heard? The players have the freedom to play where they want to play. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. And that's where, like Paul Brettel said the other night, that's on Matt LaFleur, man. Like Matt LaFleur's got to grab his you-know-what and say, hey, listen, no more of this. He's signing off on it. So, anyway.
Can I ask one? Did you get a chance to look into? I thought I saw a quote maybe from Devondre, something about the fact that he's not going to be playing through injuries anymore. When we watched, did you watch him on film? Did you see that he was basically in position the right way, but his body wasn't just letting him?
There's two specific plays. As soon as you ask that question, two specific plays come to mind. There was one play, the 52-yard touchdown, whatever it was, where Godwin caught the pass in between two defenders. Dre is driving on the ball, and he's literally like this. And he just comes up a couple inches short on the pick. Like he's literally – it's going to be a pick six. We've seen that from him, right? Remember the Washington game last year? He was so late breaking to the ball. When I say late, it's like he couldn't finish. He's dealing with some neck and shoulder stuff, like almost like a stinger top, like a serious injury. So he's not 100%. As soon as that play happened, I was like, God, Dre looks slow there. It's either he's hit the wall or it's the injuries. I lean toward it's the injuries. You don't just forget how to play football all of a sudden. Your body goes down that quick, right? So he's playing hurt. He should have had the pick six, right? The second play was actually highlighted from Mike Wall on his breakdown, where they come to the line, they do a little pre-snap shift, I believe, and Dre looks over at Quay and he's communicating with Quay, and he's telling Quay something, and Quay doesn't get it. Quay's just looking in the backfield. There's no communication whatsoever. Quay's just like, this is what I'm doing. I don't care. You can go to like, I don't know, earlier in that game. It might have been a little bit later. You see Rudy Ford one time. They make a pre-snap shift. Rudy calls out a sign. He calls something out and he's trying to get attention. Nobody looks at Rudy. Rudy is jumping up and down, throwing his hands up like this, and he looks to the sideline and goes, and he just bails out and covers deep down the center. because he was trying to make an adjustment. He was trying to get a call from, okay, what are we doing here? There's no communication. Coach K, private practice, Cameron Indoor Facility. I hate basketball with a passion. Hate it. But being in a private practice with Coach K, I'll never forget, he blew the whistle, grabbed the ball, walked over, and you could hear it. And he didn't have a microphone either. We're sitting on the sideline just as business owners studying leadership. He said, there is no communication. He said, when you're not communicating with your teammates, you're in your own SHIT. He said, I need you in our SHIT. He screamed it at the top of his lung, blew the whistle, and they went right back. Communication is huge. When you mention communication, all of the Joe Barry haters are, I'm so sick of it. It's an excuse. Fire Joe Barry. Fire Joe Barry. If the players aren't going to communicate, it doesn't matter if you've got Vince freaking Lombardi back there calling defense. It doesn't matter. If they're not going to communicate with each other, they're going to continue to struggle. It's going to happen. Now, you need a leader in here who's going to force that communication. Those two plays, though, Jacob, that's what stood out to me. Dre late on the pick, what should have been a pick six, perfect play call, late to the spot. You could tell the injury's hindering. The second time, he's trying to communicate with Quay, and Quay is just, I'm not hearing it. And then that one play where they did the pre-snap shift, you can see as soon as they did the pre-snap shift, everyone else moves in place to play their box. Essentially, when you've got three receivers, you always want to stay +1 on defense. Two receivers, you play triangle, +1. Three defenders creating a triangle, one deep, two underneath. You close them in with that triangle. With three receivers, you play what we call box. You got three receivers, you play +1. You got four defenders, two up top, two underneath. Quay was going to be the inside underneath corner of that. As soon as the ball snapped, you see Keyshawn go to his outside corner. You see the other guys move in position, and Quay standing in the middle of the field covering a ghost. And it's like they literally have 3-on-2 on that side of the field. It's technically 3-on-3, but the safety's deep because he's completing that corner, that high corner of the box. So, communication, injuries, you name it.
Well, communication is it, Clayton. In lacrosse, man, if every time it seemed like we got scored on, it's because we weren't talking. I mean, you got six guys passing the ball around. You have to keep saying, help right, help left, who's sliding, who's hot. All that stuff is, I mean, you need it. You need it in that second. It's not like we can wait 3 seconds for it to go around the corner, around the horn one more time, and then they're dodging. So it's, communication is absolutely key. And to think about it, I mean, we're 8 losses. 5 of them were 1-score games. 3 of them were 2-score blowouts, whatever you want to call it. And then, we won I think it was 3 1-score games. So the team it's not like they're not there. It's not like they're not close, but we're learning from those. And I think that, if Matt keeps them on the right track and this defense keeps grinding, I really don't think that they're going to be in bad shape if we keep moving forward with this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, here's a good question. Doug in the chat says, was Joe Barry better on the sideline? That's the other thing, too. You're hearing people now say, Joe Barry needs to be on the sideline so they can communicate. Joe Barry said just the other day, and this is common knowledge, there's no better communication just because you're on the sideline. You're still speaking into the headset to the green dot, right? It's not like you now randomly, because you're on the sideline, you can communicate with everybody on the field. Mm-hmm. There were coaches on the far side of the field trying to communicate to everyone on the defense, here's the play call. We're going man coverage. We're going cover 1 spy. And Carrington didn't get it. Joe Barry being on the sidelines magically not going to fix that. But right. I understand the question, Doug, and I'm not saying you're saying it's magically going to fix it. I just know there was fans last year going, he needs to be in the box. He can't see down there. Now he's in the boxes. He needs to be on the sideline. He can't communicate with us.
Can't see down there.
Guys, please. We're embarrassing the hell out of ourselves.
Either way, right. Either way, you lose comms at 16 seconds, right? So if the last 10 seconds, that's all on the players. The last 15 seconds, they got to make those adjustments on the field. There's no, you don't have someone in your ear telling you what to do.
Right. Another, since we're talking about embarrassing, Omer said there's another poll that said 90% same scenario. So it went from 84% to 90%. That's why I've got to the point now with Joe Barry, the same as I did with Aaron Rodgers. With Aaron Rodgers, I just want him gone now so we can move on and we can all stop arguing over this crap. And now this year it's bang. It started with Christian Watson, and that Christian Watson had those 2 games and shut all those guys up. Right. And now it's all right. Joe Barry's the villain now. All right, we get rid of Joe Barry. It's going to happen. I hope it happens. I hope we bring in the sharpest, up and coming defensive mind in the league. But as soon as that happens, there's going to be somebody else next year. that needs to be fired, needs to be cut, needs to be traded, needs to shut up, stay off social media, not speak to the media at all. There's going to be somebody that becomes the new villain. And as a fan, I've got to get better at just ignoring that crap. It's embarrassing, man. Like right here, Doug points it out. For the chat, Big Cat is a Barstool Sports knucklehead Bears fan who runs his mouth on social media. They teed it up for Packers fans to absolutely embarrass themselves. And we stepped right in the dookie.
Right.
And we didn't just step in it. We slipped, fell in it, got it on our pants. We're rolling around in it. It's embarrassing as a fan base, man. Like, come on. Better than this. You heard our boy just now, Darrell Thompson, talk about it. When I got to Green Bay, it's like these fans, well, to this day, when I go out, he said, I'm not a Hall of Fame player. You know, I'm not one of those upper echelon players. So I think he played 4 or 5 years with Green Bay. He's like, but everywhere I go, if they find out I played for the Packers, it's like royalty.
Mm-hmm.
Fans love us. Like, that's the fan base we're a part of. That's the fan base that needs to be the loudest. We knew it was going to be a down year. We already hit the floor that we talked about of 6 wins. We get 6 wins. All right. Do we have the quarterback? Bang, we got him. Matt LaFleur getting this offense rolling. Got it. And it's just like we continue to try to find ways to embarrass the hell out of ourselves as a fan base. It's just it drives me crazy. Sideline report. I didn't want to talk about this today, but you know how the chat is. Always they put a quarter in me, as Jacob says. Sideline report says, after some fast research for the NFL playoff tiebreaker scenarios, first is head-to-head. So if Green Bay defeats the Vikings head-to-head, it's 1-1. Then the next tiebreaker is the division record. Okay.
So we definitely need them to lose to the Lions then.
Yes.
Help that division record.
Definitely. Yeah. So, again, the way I'm seeing it, we need to win out, and every NFC team needs to lose. And you get a situation like this, yes, we're pulling for the Lions. Absolutely. So that's what I was screaming 5 weeks ago. You knew it was going to be a tie race. It was like, you just want all these NFC teams to lose. I don't care who's going to win what division. We need to win as many games as possible. We need every NFC team to lose.
The only other one question I had, Clayton, was what do you want for Arizona Bears? I don't think I saw if you had one circled there. Who'd you want to win that one? Doesn't matter?
It doesn't matter to me because in order for the Bears to – I think they're eliminated. Aren't they eliminated from – I'm not even sure if they're eliminated. Any of those teams that are below the Packers, it's going to take the Packers losing for them to have a shot anyway. And if the Packers lose, they're not in the playoffs, so I could care less.
Right.
You know? I just want Justin Fields to look even worse than he has all year for people like Big Cat, so they can continue to waller in it and make.
Yeah, get the win. Don't look good, but get the win. You know, then push their draft spot back.
Right. If you guys would take a second, hit that like button for us, we'd appreciate it. That way, other Packer fans, right there. That way, other Packer fans can find this podcast, find this channel. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us here on Good Morning Lambeau. Sideline report says, I believe Joe Barry will have his job saved only if Green Bay has a deep playoff run.
Let's do it.
Even then, I don't know if he would. You know, I think it would when you say deep playoff run, like NFC Championship. Yeah, I could see that being the case. You know, but I just want it to be over. I want the whole thing to be over. They broke me completely. I'm like, I'm done. All right. And all we did all year long was just try to point out the tape. And it's like, if your message isn't fire Joe Barry, I don't want to hear from you. You're an idiot. You're a moron. Shut up. Let's all go on a screaming, cussing rant live on Twitter and make asses of ourselves. So not buying into it. Bleeding Green and Gold says, I agree. It makes no sense to fire Joe Barry in season at this point, as we have no experienced play callers on staff to step in, but blank, fill in the blank. I don't know what he's asking there. Help me out here, Jacob. You're good with this. You got a higher.
He's asking us to name basically anybody that's currently on staff that would be up to the task of taking over the defense. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know.
I'll tell you who would be in line for it right now. It'll just take a quick search here. Packers defensive passing coordinator.
Linebackers.
So the passing game coordinator right now is it's not saying Greg Williams. Is that right? Yeah, he's the passing game coordinator. Remember Greg Williams? They just brung in from, was it Arizona or Houston?
Oh, yep.
So if he's the passing game coordinator, typically that is the next in line. Has kind of been my experience with it. So he would probably be the play caller. You know, they brought him in last year. Think about this: if you were to let's cue up the conspiracy music for a second. So when you look at what they brung in last year, we would all agree there was times last year that Joe Barry was on the hot seat. Right now, Obviously, against Detroit last year, he did pretty well. It was Aaron Rodgers that lost those games, to be honest with you, turning the ball over against Detroit. We should have been in the playoffs last year. I put that especially that game in Detroit, Aaron Rodgers with the RPOs just hitting defensive linemen in the helmet in the face with the football. Not a good look, right? And linebackers. But they bring, with Joe Barry kind of being on the hot seat last year, you bring in Greg Williams, that probably would be next in line. It almost makes you think that LaFleur went out and tried to find a replacement for him to put on staff if it didn't work out early this year. The problem was you were top 5, top 10 in scoring defense, and you couldn't justify getting rid of them. Now, it would come up in waves. You give up a ton of rushing yards. The fan base would get loud about it. Matt LaFleur would say, yeah, that's the tapes just showing people are missing tackles. They're not meeting their run fits. When he explained the one back run gap, that should have shut everybody up about the run defense. Essentially what he's saying is we have everyone assigned to one gap. You can't make it any more. Emilio, you played football at a low level. I get it, but you can't make it any more simple than right here. Don't let someone run through this hole right here.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't get to that hole and then you miss a tackle, how is that on the defensive coordinator? Like,
mm-hmm. You don't fill your hole. There's an open gap right there. You don't fill that hole, it's a wrap. But no, that's exactly it. And I kind of like where you were going with that. Imagine if Matt was thinking that far ahead and say, hey, let's bring someone in, kind of like how we did with Love, right? Let's bring him in, sit him behind everybody, see how this team works, see how it runs around. And if he's really the guy, if we've seen enough in practice, for him to be that passing game coordinator, setting all that up, maybe we hire from, within. That was his plan all along, but give him a year under his belt to see how this defense works and everything. I don't actually know, but that's always a possibility.
Jacob, what do you want to see on the surface? I know you've been busy here lately. What do you want to see happen to this defense, man? I think we all agree we want Joe Barry gone, right? Across the board. Nobody here wants to keep Joe Barry, right?
No, I mean,
okay. So what kind of, is there anything specifically? It doesn't even have to be a specific scheme, Jacob. It doesn't have to be a specific name. But when you think the next defensive coordinator, what's the top priority for you? Is it attitude? Is it what is it that you say, all right, I want someone to come in here to revamp this defense?
My ideal candidate is going to be a younger ex-player, similar mold to Dan Campbell.
Ex-player, I love it.
That kind of stuff. But I want him to look at I don't want him to just look at a group of guys and be like, well, there's 8-9 first rounders. That means that they're all fast and they can all do this. So I'm going to do this. I want them to look at each individual player and be like, are they good at football? Is he able to cover? If I employ this concept or install this concept, does he understand what that means? Do I have a 7th rounder at cornerback that should I need to tell him that he needs to look over to the sideline before the ball snapped? Or is that something that's so fundamental that we've covered that in day 1, day 2 practice so that it doesn't have to be in the mid-season in the game where I get he's a rookie, but certain little things like that. I want to be covering the fundamentals, but at the same time, understand the capabilities of the group of guys that I'm in. And a good coach, in my opinion, and a good boss, a good leader, all that kind of stuff. You don't just plug round pegs into square holes. You fit what, you play the hand you're dealt kind of thing. And I feel like that our guys for the last 2-3 years have just been forcing what they think should work for the guys they have. You need to just play a little bit, learn how to roll with the punches and kind of just, I personally I feel like we need to get rid of some of these guys too. If they're not going to, we've got, I love Preston, but is he really, I don't know what he's doing necessarily for us on an explosion level. Rudy Ford, I think I've given that guy a chance. I feel like when he's on the field, he's more of a liability. I always see him I see Rudy Ford chasing somebody down the field. Jair, kind of over it. I'm just kind of we make something either become Kenny Clark is so up and down. I feel like, the only guy that I legitimately constantly am just well, I don't have to ever worry about him is Rashawn Gary. And I think if you can only say that about one person on your defense consistently, then that's an issue. So
yeah. No, I think it's very well said. Margin Cron in the chat. And Jacob, you go when you need to go, but I know you probably got stuff to do.
I got to bounce.
Cool, man. Appreciate you hopping on, dude. It was good to see you. We're way over here, so.
You guys going to be around for a Christmas episode tomorrow? That sounds pretty fun.
I'm trying my best to do a pregame show tomorrow. We're supposed to have a dinner, so I think if everything works out, we'll do a pregame show, and then we'll be able to do a postgame show later. It might not be immediately following the game, but it'd be just like a later evening show. But yeah,
I'll
pregame show
definitely-
should be on the books for 10:30 Central Time.
All right, Emilio, you got that 10:30 Central?
10:30.
All right. I'll be there, guys. Go Pack, go.
All
Merry
right, buddy.
Christmas.
Appreciate
Appreciate
you.
you, man. Merry Christmas. So, Margin Cron in the chat says, need an attitude guy, or you need to add attitude guys, I should say. Completely agree. People don't like to hear that, but I agree with it.
Mhm.
Derek K pretty much saying the same thing. We need dogs. Sideline report saying we need some nasty. It's everything that Mike Daniel was talking about the other day on the Wildy and Tao show, which, by the way, if you guys haven't watched that, it's probably been edited now. He dropped an F-bomb, and I created a GIF of Jason Wildy. You should see Jason Wildy. He's just smiling and everything. He drops the F-bomb, and he goes, what? So we've got that GIF in the holster now. I tagged him the other day on Twitter, like, we're going to be using that one. But that's what Mike Daniels was talking about. He said they appreciated it in Detroit. They appreciated it in Cincinnati. But when he was in Green Bay, he was more or less told, hey, we don't need that here. Just calm it down a bit. It's like, you need some of that nasty. Could you imagine Ray Nitschke being quiet on the Packers
Right.
Under Lombardi? Willie Davis was kind of that quiet leader, but he was like Reggie, man. He was one of those guys that he was just in the quarterback's face every single play. You didn't need to say anything, but you need a little nasty on that defense for sure. Let's see here. Omer in the chat says what he said, 100% attitude and toughness guys with Musgrave and Kraft mentality. You kind of seeing that on the offensive side. And at the helm, you've got Jordan Love, who's just this stone cold.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I love Jordan Love's demeanor, man. I think he's going to be a great quarterback.
Right, because Jordan Love would back that up. He would back up Musgrave Kraft in that kind of demeanor, but he doesn't need to sit there and preach it all day. You know what I mean? He can sit there and kind of guide. He'll call them in off season. Hey, everybody come in. Let's go ball out. Bring in 8-10 guys and run routes and all that. But he doesn't need to sit there and preach it all day long if Musgrave and Kraft are showing up doing that.
Right, for sure. Just want to take a quick second, guys, and raise some awareness here. We usually give away jerseys here we try to do it every other week during the season for our YouTube listeners, or our YouTube members, I should say. What we want to do this week, if you guys will go to Matt Ramage's Twitter account, @MattRamage, you'll see a GoFundMe for, I think it's a coworker of his, their little baby girl. I think it's either Aria or Aria. It's probably Aria. She's got a battle with leukemia right now, and we are raising money there for the family. Father's got to take time off of work to be with her, and obviously it's going to be time without pay. It just amazes me how we don't have something set up in this country of ours where a dad can go be with his daughter and not have to worry about keeping the lights on in his house. I just feel like as a society we could be better. But anyway, that's the goal of this to the best of my knowledge. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I know all the details. I know I trust Matt Ramage. Matt Ramage is absolutely awesome. You guys, if you're following this stupid little channel, I promise you're already following Matt Ramage. He's great. But what we did was, as Packernet Podcasts, the Packernet Podcast Network, we're donating an autographed Paul Hornung jersey. Okay, so it's autographed by Hall of Famer Paul Hornung, the Golden Boy. Anyone who donates to this GoFundMe will be entered into a contest, a drawing for that autographed Paul Hornung jersey. So here's the other thing too. Whatever the minimum donation is, I don't even know what it is. If it's a dime, that's better than nothing. Let's do everything we can to get this money raised for this family. When I checked back this morning, we were closing in on that $5,000 goal. Here's the way I see it. Anytime you set a goal in life, business, sports, anything, don't just try to hit the goal. Blow it out of the damn water.
Right.
Let's blow past it.
Well, I mean, even from last night, Clayton, we were just talking about it. Last night, we were a couple hundred or, shy of 1,000. Now it's, you're pushing 4,500 just from everybody in the chat, everybody that watches, all that helps, man. Every little bit, is there for them and the family. Yeah, for sure, man. Let's just be a blessing. We say it every episode. Let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world. Here's an opportunity to do it. I know that we're going to be donating as well as the jersey that's been donated. It's the least we can do, man. I can only imagine. Like, this little girl should be worrying about doing kids stuff, right? Not fighting for her life. And the least that we can do as fellow Packer fans, and like I said, fans of Matt Ramage, friends of Matt Ramage, is just throwing a little change into the pot to help out. So never like to ask for money, but in this situation, when a little baby girl's involved, we got to do what we got to do as a fan base to bond together. So let's get out of here, bro. What do you got for me? Parting thoughts, bud. A little bit of football today. Let's hang out, make sure everybody's got their presents wrapped and all that good stuff. Make sure we're ready for tomorrow's game, and it's going to be a big one, folks. Are we going later tonight? No, right? It'll just be tomorrow morning.
I think we're going later tonight as
Okay.
well. That's the plan. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do a PTA tonight at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. And then tomorrow we'll do a pregame. Like I said, the post game will probably be a little later than normal, but we'll still get in there. And hopefully we're talking about a dub and playoff hope still alive, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Nonetheless, we've still got, whether they win or lose tomorrow, you've still got things that we're watching. We want Jordan Love to continue to build on this great first year starting campaign. And obviously create momentum into next year for sure. So Bleeding Green and Gold says, I'm a computer idiot. Hey, welcome to the club, my friend. If you've seen this whole contraption I've got set up here, and I look like a mad scientist over here trying to figure it out, an illiterate mad scientist trying to figure out how the computer stuff works. I relate, man. He said, I'm a computer idiot. How do I find Aria's GoFundMe? Is that a Twitter thing? You go to Matt Ramage's Twitter account, okay, at Matt Ramage, and he'll have it pinned right there at the top. Actually, I've got it pinned at the top of my Twitter page as well, I believe.
And I just tried to throw the link in YouTube to see if that pulls up, but it doesn't look like it showed up on our end, but it did on the live chat, so I'm not sure. Yeah,
they're kind of weird with link encryptions and things like that in the chat. But again, go check it out on my Twitter at Packers_access, or you can go to at Matt Ramage. So that being said, we're way over. Derek K says, I don't know why I've been in here with you knuckleheads for 80 minutes.
80 minutes. He's been waiting for his John Deere green the whole time.
You ask and you shall receive.
John Deere green on a hot summer night. Hero Billy Bob loves Charlene.
You gotta love it. Chris N in the chat said, if you don't have Twitter, don't blame you one bit, by the way. I just Google GoFundMe Aria, and it came up first choice. So just type in ARIA into Google with GoFundMe, and it should pop right up. So appreciate you guys and gals. Thank y'all so much for that. I want to give a special shout out to Darrell Thompson. We're definitely going to be helping promote for his program there that he's got moving forward with Boulder Options, him helping the youth there in the Minneapolis.
30 years, man. That's awesome.
What an amazing man. It's so well spoken. He's got that radio voice. As soon as he gets on the mic, my voice is gonna sound like razor blades on a chalkboard compared to this dude. He got that Barry White going. So he is Daryl's awesome, man. Really appreciate him connecting with us. It's gonna be cool to get his insight too. You know, he's one of those guys that understands the running back position inside and out for sure. So
right.
All right, with that being said, guys, thank y'all for hanging out with us. We're gonna get out of here. We'll see you guys tonight for Packers Total Access. Like I said, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.